Today, there are 2 million descendants of French-Canadian immigrants living in New England. These are our stories. Welcome to the French-Canadian Legacy Podcast.
Venez tous jeunes filles et garçons, je vais vous raconter l'histoire de notre immigration ici au USA, de grands aventuriers, de pays étrangers.
This is the French-Canadian Legacy Podcast. I am Jesse Martineau. Now, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be recording this episode back where it all started, the FCL studios in Hudson, New Hampshire, which coincidentally looks a lot like Mike's basement, although it has been completely redone since the last time I was here. I'm particularly excited for our guest this week. I was very fortunate to go to Rassemblement up at the University of Maine, Orono. Always a good time. While I was there, I noted as one of the presenters appeared to be carrying a book with the old Notre Dame bridge on the cover. And anyone of a certain age from Manchester, New Hampshire will immediately recognize that bridge. And when this presenter was up there started to play a guitar, and my dad, who actually made the trip with me, he's next to me, he starts tapping me, and he tells me that he would be able to get into a car right now and drive straight to the house where this presenter grew up, which was really fun, because it turns out that my dad had been an altar boy and a Boy Scout with the person who's now presenting in front of us, playing the guitar, singing songs about Manchester, which was way fun. Just kind of shows you all the connections that there are in the Franco-American community. And it's going to be super exciting to have some of that shared with you guys. I know some of you guys are already familiar with this individual's work, but I'm really hyped to be able to show more of his music and poetry. Our guest is Jean Pouliot. Born into a French-speaking parish in Manchester, Jean experienced Vatican II, French-Canadian culture in crisis, and the political tumult of the 1960s. His songs and poems examine, express, and share his heritage. Jean holds a BA in psychology and a master's degree in Catholic ministry. And by the end of the show, we will make sure everybody knows where to find his work. Jean, welcome to the French-Canadian Legacy Podcast.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So now I noted in your bio, you're from Manchester, attended a French church, but maybe big picture. Now, what church are we talking about? What did the world look like when you grew up in Manchester?
Well, I'm actually from the east side of Manchester, and for folks who know Manchester, they often associate the west side of Manchester with Franco-Americans, with les Canadiens who came from Quebec and landed there. It was actually a neighborhood there where my grandfather Eddie Pouliot, Edouard, who I'm named for, who I write about, had a diner there called Eddie's Lunch that ran through the 20s and 30s and just after the war when he passed away. But I actually grew up on the east side in a Franco-American parish called La Paroisse Saint-Georges, so St. George Parish, which is on Orange and Pine if you're from Manchester. So I lived a block away from church, so we didn't have to take buses or anything. We just walked to church, walked to school, and that meant that we ended up having to serve a lot of masses when the altar boys didn't show up at 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever.
Sure. Possibly my pops, yeah. That's awesome.
I meant to bring that up with you, but I don't.
No worries. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so do you speak French in the house?
We did. I think my parents were probably among some of the last ones in Manchester to think that, to want to garder ton français, to keep your French. And so we spoke French. My grandmother, Emma Hawley, lived in the house, and that was actually her house. And so she was always, coming in and out. And so my mom and I spoke, and my grandmother, my mère, spoke in French most of the time. And then my dad once in a while.
Gotcha.
And then we got to school. Once the English part of school started, like math and geography and that kind of stuff, then it was a little harder to keep that up. So, I still spoke it, but I think my story is one of having something and then losing it and then gradually over time regaining it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I sometimes I speak to myself in French. It's like,
great.
Talk to an intelligent man, listen to an intelligent man speak, I guess. No, it's good practice because getting your lips and your vocal apparatus around the French words is more than just reading it. You have to speak it.
Sure, yeah. So. It's funny. I was just having this conversation with my mom because my mom is kind of just getting that same process you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because my parents are a couple years ahead of you at St. George.
Yep.
And I was talking to my mom about how I had read somewhere that if you have this situation where you had a language, kind of lost it, and you're trying to reacquire, the best thing you could do is read out loud.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I
like that a lot.
Like that was because you're doing so many different skills involved with that. You're listening, you're pronouncing, reading. And so
it's amazing how
thanks.
It's amazing how many words I have forgotten.
Yeah.
But they're still in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, like, I was looking today, I was looking, what's the word for a sleeve? Oh, la manche. Oh, yeah. It's like I'd forgotten it, and then now I've got it forever. That'll maybe a story I read today. But
yeah, no, it's cool because my parents always say that if you talk to them, they'll understand.
Right.
They just get frustrated sometimes trying to speak back to you because they lose the words.
Yeah, and how to start a sentence and that kind of business.
Do you ever go back to Manch?
Yeah, go back to Manch. I mean, everybody I know is buried there. So
oh, there you go. That's a good reason.
That's a good reason.
You write about that too, actually.
I do. Yeah. I have a lot of my relatives are buried at Mount Calvary, Le Cimetière de Mont Calvaire, and
all mine are too.
Yeah. And it's good. Yeah, I get to Manchester quite a bit, as a matter of fact.
Now, do you go by St. George?
Of late? Yeah.
I'm just curious because for me, I mean, I assume it's going to be even different for you because that's the church I was baptized in.
Yep.
So I still remember like the penny sales when I was a kid and happening in that basement, but also like my meme's funeral. But when my sister was baptized there, I can remember that, my first communion, those kind of things. But you had an even a lot longer experience with that building, that church, than I did.
Well, it's interesting because my parents were one of the first couples that were married there.
In the new church.
In the new church. The fire was in, 53?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
And it took them a year to build a new one. And they built, the old one was in wood, the new one they built out of blonde brick. So if that burns, it'll be a miracle. But the thing that I love the most, the thing that sometimes you have these times where, I would chain myself to the fence if they ever try to do this.
Right.
And the thing that I would chain myself to the fence for is if they ever take away or try to destroy those beautiful stained glass windows. And it's a fun story behind it. I don't know all of it. If I was, Bob Perot or one of those guys who writes about Manchester, there was a Sentinelist movement in the 20s and 30s, I think.
Yep.
And long story short, the pastor at our church, Monseigneur Verret, I don't think he was a Monsignor at the time, but Adrien Verret, who was a historian of Manchester, and he was a force to be reckoned with. And he kind of came close to, getting shipped off to Berlin or something, because he was very, very active in, the pro-French movement. And the bishop told him basically, calm down.
Really?
And he did. But one thing he did is that while he was in his church, he could do whatever he felt like.
For sure.
So back when, and your dad probably remembers this, he's a couple of years ahead of me, but when they built the church in 54, 55, they didn't have enough money to put stained glass in. So they only had yellow ripple glass, which I remember.
Sure.
So, it wasn't like, there was like no people in the windows.
Gotcha.
Well, slowly but surely over the next few years, in the early 60s, all of a sudden, one day after another, it was like, oh, there's Joan of Arc. Oh,
yeah,
look,
right.
Here's John the Baptist. Why is John the Baptist there?
Yeah.
He's a patron saint of Quebec. Saint Louis, the namesake of...
The Lord des Ormeaux. Yes.
Yeah, the Lord des Ormeaux,
Yeah.
So it was either all French saints or all French Canadian explorers or founders of convents or orders of priests or whatever, or the martyrs, Jean Bédébeuf.
There you go.
Who, I don't remember if he got his head chopped off or whatever. These guys are the first ones who tried to convert some of the rougher Indian tribes.
Yeah, with varying degrees of success.
Yeah. So anyway, every single window. So that's what I remember. That's my chain them to the fence movement.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. What's really cool is one of the things you write about are all those windows in the church, which is very awesome.
At great length, thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. So as far as now getting down, we talked about how you performed at the Rassemblement. When did you start performing music?
Wow, I think. I was in marching band.
Oh, okay.
In high school,
Gotcha.
I had taken piano lessons before that, and that was just a lost cause. And
okay.
I'm not a reader. It's funny because I compose on piano.
Yeah.
But to read the piano, I'm extraordinarily slow.
Oh, gotcha.
So it was a great thing. I had a sister, Cecile Provost, was my teacher, and she had, one of the books we had was they would put a number in each of your fingers.
Sure.
So, like a C, would be a 1, and then 2, your next finger was a D, and E
Gotcha.
was the next finger was a 3. And that was fine. as long as they didn't move away from 5 fingers. And all of a sudden, they moved that 5th finger up one, and I just played the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it was really 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh
yeah.
And that was kind of the end of my piano career until college when I picked it up, just because I taught myself how to play.
That's amazing.
I have a lot of music in my family. A lot of uncles and aunts can play that kind of ragtime
Very cool
style. I can't do that, but I have enough understanding of music theory that I can make myself understood.
Because even on like your webpage, you have some examples of songs you've done.
Yeah.
With the backing is a piano.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
it's
very, very
thank
impressive.
You. Well, thank you for looking at my website.
Well, of course. I would not be able to teach myself an instrument. I'm fairly confident that I would not be super successful. Now, did your family, because my mom talks about it, how when she was growing up, she still remembered like the soirees, where they would have events where like the uncles would show up with their fiddles and guitars, and the kids would have to hang out in the kitchen while they pushed all the furniture aside and sang and danced and drank a ton.
I wish.
Oh yeah.
I heard only recently after one of my aunts died. My dad was a twin.
Yeah.
And so they were born in 1925. My dad Emil and his twin Alfred, and Alfred's wife Rose. When she passed away, their kids were talking to us about how their little family, would have musicians over. I'm saying, why am I hearing about this now?
Right. Yeah. No. That's
I wish
cool.
I had been there.
No, of course.
So no, unfortunately, I wish there's a lot of. Part of my story is a story of assimilation.
Sure.
And people making decisions about, what of the old things do they keep and what of the old things do they not keep. And I think in our case, musically, the old Quebec violin and dancing traditions get kind of transmogrified into square dancing.
Oh, I see.
And that kind of stuff. So that was kind of a real close first cousin to the Quebecois stuff.
Fair enough. Now, how about writing? When did you decide you wanted to start writing poetry? What made you make that call?
I think most of that stuff. I think there was very little opportunity in my grammar school days and my high school days to do any creative writing. A couple of reasons. There wasn't a focus on expressing yourself was not something that they dealt with a whole lot. In high school, I was kind of a science nerd. So I kind of shied away from the liberal arts.
Sure.
And I got to college, studied physics for a couple of years, ended up coming to UNH as a psychology major, kind of took a radical right turn.
That's the difference. Yeah.
And at that point, I was I'd already started kind of goofing around with writing.
Nice.
It was a way of expressing myself. It's like mooning over an old lost girlfriend or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I said, wow, that was terrible, but
right.
but it was just, even if you do something terrible, you say, wow, that's better than I ever thought I could do. It's like I had no idea that I could manage even this.
No, that's awesome.
And that just makes you want to keep trying. So I've been really writing since I was 19 in one way or another. I played with limericks. I've done a lot of songs, a lot of songwriting over the years. Everything from humorous songs about humorous sea shanties to and then some songs exploring my Franco-American side, which when
did that start?
I'll have to. Thanks for asking. When's the first song? I think was probably when I was older. I remember at one point I said, what can I write a song about? Well, why don't I write a song about Manchester? And I said, well, what am I going to write about Manchester? I left there when I was 17, and in some ways I didn't enjoy the experience entirely. So I was, it's like one of these college things you just want to disappear and find something new.
Sure.
But what am I going to write about? And I ended up writing a song that was kind of a love story to Manchester, and it kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
So as a song I could play here if you like. That got me thinking about my ancestry more, because I was writing about the mills and the red mills along the river, glowing in the sunset, and my ancestors who came here. The roots go deep and long. It doesn't matter which side of the river you grew up on, and really was thinking in terms of kind of pushing back against some of the assimilation myths that I had read. Like the East Side is better than the West Side.
Fair.
And that kind of stuff. So I mean, I had cousins from both sides of the river. So I was like, am I supposed to think that this set is better than those? It was like, so I was dealing also with some of the without knowing it, the assimilation crises that happen and were part of my growing up when a lot of people were no longer speaking French and were ashamed of being French.
Sure.
Which I never quite understood, and now I understand even less.
It is semi-frustrating because I think your generation, my folks' generation, had to deal with a lot of the, being ashamed, or some people being ashamed of
Yeah.
being French, that there's somehow, French was equating to being lower class.
Yep.
I think I can't help but think that has contributed to Mike and I's generation being the first to not speak it.
Yeah.
Because, forever. But in a lot of ways, I think it's also an opportunity for our generation, because even though Mike and I do not speak it, we both can remember parents speaking it.
Right.
Which gives us a bonus that even my niece and nephew won't have.
Right.
So, but yeah, that is tough. But I do want to talk about the singing bridge book, which is very cool.
The singing bridge, yeah. Thank you.
I do have confession. When I bought this book at the Rassemblement, and I didn't honestly register the title of the singing bridge. I just remembered it as the book with the Notre Dame Bridge on it.
Yeah, Le Pont Notre Dame.
So I come back and I was talking to my girlfriend, actually, Heather, and I'm telling her about this really cool book that I just purchased with the Notre Dame Bridge, and I start, waxing poetic about how awesome the old Notre Dame Bridge was. And a lot of what I talked about was just how cool it sounded when you drove over it.
Yeah.
Because when I was a little kid, I'm like, that was like the neatest thing ever. Because to and from like my preschool every day, we would go over that bridge. So I know, I could hear that sound tomorrow, and I would know that's the Notre Dame Bridge.
Absolutely.
And so when I looked at the title, looked at the very first poem in there, I'm like, I'm an idiot. I could have just handed you this book. It would be good to go. So what made you decide you want to write a book, and why specifically the Singing Bridge?
I have been writing poetry for a long time. Actually, I've been writing poems and little rhymey things, like I said, limericks and whatnot, mostly songs. And it was a couple of Labor Days ago. Actually, the people across the street from us in Newbury, where I live, were in the publishing business, and they're also, they have a Labor Day party, and they kind of joke around with the idea of bread and roses, blah blah blah,
Okay.
kind of the which is the
Nice.
a slogan that came out of the Lawrence a textile mill strike. As it turns out, there was a guy there who runs a monthly poetry. And I said, wow, I could do why don't I get serious about writing poetry? And then I just realized that I already had a good start toward toward poems that explored the Franco-American experience, at least the one that I had in the 60s. And I just said, all right, well, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to keep writing in this vein, and off we went.
Very cool. And now we're going to be able to hear some of your work, which I'm pretty excited about. So we'll start with some poetry, actually.
You waxed rhapsodically about the Notre Dame Bridge.
The Singing Bridge.
The Singing Bridge, Le Pont Notre Dame, which was named after the neighborhood which it landed in on the west side. So it's a little bit longer than this, but I cut it down to make an excerpt. It sang when you crossed it. In car or jalopy, the steel of its deck rang a tuning fork C. We kids in the back seat sang a high-octave copy or essayed a 2 or 3-part harmony whose tune never aged. The thrill was consistent for infant or senior, teenaged or full-grown, ditch digger or bishop. No one was resistant when ensconced in the bridge's euphonious zone. The hum was a balm, both for boredom and bile. All arguments halted and all rib-poking ceased. All frowns were replaced with a dull, vacant smile. All foul moods were lightened. Serotonin increased. It's said, though I have not seen it with my own eyes, that on Sundays when families went out for a drive, the new minted parents, not yet used to the cries of their babes, would drive east to west and then contrive to drive back west to east, then repeat the procedure until cher bébé by the bridge song was soothed. Also, spouses and furies would exploit this neat feature and drive till the crimps in their marriage were smoothed. The bridge, such a boon to the car-driving masses, was shrill, shrieking hell to the others who crossed, for the sonorous song whose, when tires strummed its crevasses, became far less dulcet if you left no exhaust. As a teen, I once rode my new bike on that deck. Both tires were caught on the grating and jerked. Front went right, back went left, chills up my neck, spine stiffened, the pedals I furiously worked as dump trucks and buses an inch from my handlebars made my breath catch in my paralyzed chest. The drivers zipped by with the screeching of rock guitars, not slowing a beat to give a cyclist a rest. But though it might stick in this old man's memoir, that terrible ride was just one of 1,000 of fine, tuneful trips when I joined in the choir of steel trusses, grates, and tires carousing. Oh, that it still stood, yoking east side and west, the span that sang lullabies, admixture of the founder's iron vision with immigrant zest, brawn, and skill, building a labor of love. The emerald span set on Art Deco piers that my great-grandpa cut with his stonemacer's tools, its droning concerto will not leave my ears till I trade the Black River for heavenly pools.
It was a sad day in Manchester. I still remember when that went down.
J'étais bien fâché, moi. I was really ticked off.
Yeah, I can imagine. It just seems so silly and unnecessary for it to have to come down. Very frustrating. It was awesome. Do you want one more? You got another one?
This one is one of the things that I loved, and I think one of the first ones I wrote about was my grandmother used to make la tarte à mélasse. And tarte à mélasse is the pie of molasses.
Oh, I got
If you translate it directly. So molasses pie, which is basically you take a piece of crust, put some molasses on it, flip it over, and throw it in the oven.
That sounds about right.
So it's, there's a number of French words in here, and in my book you don't have to be worried about the French because I translate everything at the end of the poem, so I don't want anybody to feel excluded. But this one has some French word. The one is called un tablier. A tablier is an apron. And then everything else I think you can pretty much catch with out of context. All right. So la tarte à mélasse. Meme has been baking for the nuns, pies, tarts, cakes, breads, some party, some feast day, some holiday, driven by piety, appreciation, anxiety, the primal urge to give back. She caromed around her small apartment, her cloister cell, sink to oven to cooling shelf, an improvised metal cabinet top, her tablier, covering a good dress, dusted white with flour, cinnamon, and brown sugar, greased with finger smears of butter, efficient as a clockworks, stove popping open like the cuckoos at the jewelry store where she sold diamonds. Back hunched by age and habit, white hair held by spray and natural stiffness, peeking at rising dough, pressing a finger into a cooling muffin top, measuring les épices by rough approximations and insouciance gleaned from a lifetime in the kitchen, refined by a dip of spoon and a pensive sip, then a drop more vanilla, an attack on a dough ball until flattened into submission, the cooling rack filled with gently brown crusts, delicate aromas of les bleuets, les framboises, les fraises, picked from le jardin. Errant children plucked, gathered, washed, disciplined, stems removed, gone under the knife, smothered, smelted, finally into something useful. The days run at an end, tablier enlevé, and hung for next time. Meme looks around, sees me. Eyes soften like butter in a cup by the cook stove. Tu veux-tu de la tarte à mélasse, chère? Oui, ma mère. And the tablier goes back on, untied in the back, as a stray scrap of crust is draped onto a heat-burnished pan, a few drops of tarry liquor dribbled on, a flap folded over and into the still-warm oven. When the door opens, la tarte emerges from its fiery purgatoire, brown drops bubbling, charring the metal pan. A scoop lands it on a white plate, sits long seconds to cool enough for a boy's mouth. Buttery, flaky crust, thick, sweet drops of liquid cane sugar run across teeth, gums, and tongue. A reduction of pure love, given with grace by my mère, just pour moi.
That's an awesome memory. Is that your dad's mom or your mom's mom?
That's my mom's mom.
Where was she from?
She was born in Hooksett, I think,
Gotcha.
just north of Manchester.
Gotcha.
And she was one of the East Side. She was kind of. It was interesting. Contrast with my dad's family. My dad's family was quote unquote Canucks from the West Side, and they spoke French growing up, and they spoke French at work and at home and at church and whatnot. My grandmother and her family landed on the East Side, up in Suncook Hill, Hooksett area, just outside the city.
Yeah, just north of the city, right? Yeah.
So they didn't have the big Franco-American community around them, so they became more assimilated very quickly, to the point where my grandmother, I always joke about it, she would speak like a down east Yankee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so her deal was to, if you could speak English without a French accent and French without an English accent, that was the ideal. So she would say things like, close the door.
Wow. That's interesting.
But then she could speak perfect French, and including the Québécois isms, except not the swears.
No. Those are the
She
fun
would
words,
she would do you probably know that damn is maudit, but she would say soudzi.
Soudzi, okay.
Or another is mardi. Oh, Tuesday.
That's
Because it sounded enough like maudit to know that you're being cussed out, but without actually being cussed out. It's like, oh, fudge.
Yeah. Well, like my dad talks about it all the time. His mom would say, "Oh, viande, meat," like viande. That was like her swear.
Did she? Oh, yeah.
The word meat.
I'm trying to think of what might have been close to, but anyway.
Yeah, I have
good,
no idea. My dad
Yeah.
still doesn't know either. He thinks it's hilarious. But it's funny because I can even remember hearing her say it sometimes. But very cool. So what's the first tune we're going to be hearing today?
It's called Mill Workers Arise, and it's a song that commemorates the 1921 mill workers strike in Manchester. And I think other places too, but Manchester was one of the hotbeds of labor unrest, because I think by that time the French Canadians and others had been around long enough that we started to understand each other, and we're kind of like ticked off at the way they were being treated. Wage cuts, increase in hours, both at the same time.
Right, yeah.
They said, enough of this. We don't have to put up with this anymore.
Which is funny because for the longest time, the reputation of the French Canadians would be the ones, they would not be the ones who would go on strike.
We were docile.
Exactly right.
It's like, don't send me back to the farm and get back, please.
Yes, we couldn't, the French Canadians, they couldn't be trusted to be management, but you could trust them to always show up to work.
Right.
It was the idea.
For a nickel an hour, whatever.
It's very cool that we get a song about that.
The mill is a beast that demands to be fed with sharp use of bobbins and thick cotton threads. But it'll devour a leg or an arm, and when you're chewed up, spit you back to the farm. The mill, how it deafens its back-breaking work. The boss walks around to make sure you don't shirk. Just feed the machine, there are profits at stake. For pennies an hour, how much can we take? River rolls in, the leather belt spins. For God's sake, don't get in its way. Cotton thread spun, don't slow down the run, or the bosses will garnish your pay. The children are crying, their bellies are sore. The trousers so thin can't be patched anymore. The sick ones end up in an immigrant's plot. No marker, no stone to distinguish the spot. They put us together, French, Polish, and Greek. We can't organize if one tongue we can't speak. But poverty is the same language for all. Our union is one thing they cannot forestall. River rolls in, the leather bell spins. For God's sake, don't get in its way. Cotton thread spun, don't slow down the run, or the bosses will garnish your pay. They threaten to move all our jobs out of state, where strikes are forbidden and wages cut rate. But what can we do when our cupboards are bare, but starve, work, or perish for all that they care? Hey, hey, fellow workers, can you lend a hand? Our hunger's a language we all understand. We cannot be beat if we all stand as one, so let's fight those tight-fisted sons of a gun. River rolls in, the leather bell spins. For God's sake, don't get in its way. Cotton thread spun, don't slow down the run, or the bosses will garnish your pay.
Very, very cool.
Thank you.
It's the one I heard up in Maine. This is cool. All right, so what's up now?
Next one is a song I have a poster of a copy of a poster that my dad got. I don't know where he got it, and I'd love to see the original. But it's what people used to entertain themselves with back in the 30s before TV came along, is they'd put on little plays.
Sure.
Well, in this case, it was more than a little play. What they had is 3 or 4 attorneys from Manchester, Franco-American attorneys, who were the defense, and 3 or 4 attorneys from Manchester who were the prosecution. And they were there to have a mock trial that went over 4 days somewhere in March.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to do that now.
Yeah. It was 25 cents for 4 nights, or 10 cents a night. You pick. And what would happen is at the end of the trial, le mock trial, it was in c'est l'État du New Hampshire versus Pistol Eddie. And Pistol Eddie was
yes.
And Pistol Eddie, ça c'était de mon grand-père. That was my grandfather, who posed in an Al Capone
That's amazing.
Coat and a little scally cap, and he was
have
pissed.
that picture?
I do.
That's so cool.
It's a gang. It's a gang. It was a bunch of guys around. What I like about it is how Franco-Americans, when they came across a concept or that they'd never heard of before, they just grabbed the English and turned it into French.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
what do I care?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So Pistolet is a gang.
That's cool.
So what I ended up doing is I ended up trying to bring Pistol Eddie to life.
I got you.
I wasn't sure. I wanted to write something about the poster, but it's like I wasn't sure what to do without just being didactic.
Do you know how
about
the
it,
jury came down?
You know,
We don't know. It's still a mystery. Yeah.
it's a good question. You know, people were actually taking film of,
Really?
They would drive, drive by somewhere
Sure.
on Elm Street somewhere, and they'd take a film. They would show the film, and then the police would come by and they'd take a picture of that.
That's
They
so
would show these at the,
That's awesome.
and it was just like I said, it was 25 cents for 4 nights, and at the end of it, I don't know,
I'll talk to some of my prosecutor friends. Who can get that done. No, this is cool.
it was fun. So this is the Ballad of Pistol Eddie. What I wanted to do is to write something about it. So I kind of created this character from
Sure.
this fame. I wanted to call Pistol Eddie a bad hombre.
Yeah.
And I said, mon Dieu, we have a word, we have bonhomme. So I call him an hombre in Spanish. And then the other thing, there are references here to the Cachico mill. And there's another, in Notre Dame, there's a question about where he was buried. Was he buried in Notre Dame's piers? When they were building the Notre Dame bridge, they ended up,
Oh, right.
right. What's his name?
Yeah.
In cement in the pier somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Pistol Eddie Bad Bonhomme, circa 1925. The mayor of Mill City wanted him dead or alive for bank theft, bootleg whiskey, and assorted heinous crimes. But never was a single soul disposed to drop a dime. The old folk in the precinct with a tip never rang. Even birds on wires to the coppers never sang. And sightless was the law when Eddie's caddy rode the street. And milk girls keep their eyes averted or upon their feet. Right onward in your black Cadillac. The people of Mill City all have got you back. The greedy mill owners will not raise the workers' pay. That's why Pistol Eddie will not go away. Pistol Eddie robbed the rich and gave unto the poor. He said so many times that's who the money's really for. Not sitting in some rich man's pocket or a banker's safe. So long as Milltown has a widow or a starving waif. The so-called philanthropic were his favorite nighttime art. He broke into their mansions while the city was still dark. He left a little calling card, a cross made from the ash of $100 bills he had extracted from their stash. Right onward in your black Cadillac. The people of Mill City all have got your back. The greedy mill owners will not raise the workers' pay. That's why Pistol Eddie will not go away. Pistol Eddie tipped the scales at 304. He liked his steaks well done in a chicken gravy he would pour. He loved Cuban cigars and his Canadian whiskey. His bacon crepes dripped with the juice of Mama's maple tree. Despite his size and reputation, Eddie kept well hid. The cops and feds all marveled at the capers that he did, like stealing golden candlesticks, replacing them with brass. No priest can tell the difference as he prays at morning mass. Right onward in your black Cadillac. The people of Mill City all have got your back. The greedy mill owners will not raise the workers' pay. That's why Pistol Eddie will not go away. Pistol Eddie hasn't pulled a heist in many years. Some say he's buried in concrete in Notre Dame's his piers, but more believe he's sunning on some Caribbean beach with his stogies and his whiskey and completely out of reach. Some say he is a metaphor, a stoolie for the state. Some say he runs a diner near Cachico's Iron Gate, but there has been no evidence, no fingerprint or note, though some report the shadow of a men's size 60 coat. Right onward in your black Cadillac. The people of Mill City all have got your back. The greedy mill owners will not raise the workers' pay. That's why Pistolette will not go away.
Very, very fun. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I want to hang out with that guy.
Well,
three bills, eating some chicken, smoking stoves.
Check out the Caribbean. You never know.
That is awesome. Very cool. So we're going to get one more.
Yeah.
One more tune. And so what are we going to finish with?
Well, I mentioned before is that when I first I wrote this in 1982. I was just looking at the dates on the thing. So back in 1982, which was in the long, even before, it was about 6 BC, 6 before we had kids, before children.
Awesome.
I was searching around for something to write about, and I said, well, maybe I was write something about Manchester. And that took a little bit of time to figure out what to write exactly. And what I ended up doing to start with is I gave directions to my home on Pearl Street, which your dad...
There you go. He knows exactly where it is.
So these are the directions to my house on Pearl Street from the west side. And then after that, I was able to loosen up and, and get going. Take to Notre Dame Bridge, cross the Merrimack, past the mills and up beyond the downtown traffic lights, a block and a half or so. There's a pine tree up on the sidewalk, you can park your car right around the block, and welcome to my Manchester home. Manchester home is a city, don't you miss it when you're gone. Doesn't matter which side of the river you grew up on. Manchester home and my family, where the roots go deep and long. Or right or wrong, it's still my Manchester home. Long red mills along the river, glowing in the setting sun, still remind me of a time not long ago. When other folks with my name to this town with hopes and dreams they came to build themselves a Manchester home. Manchester home is a city, don't you miss it when you're gone. Doesn't matter which side of the river you grew up on. Manchester home and my family, where the roots go deep and long. Right or wrong, it's still my Manchester home. Manchester City lights, football on Friday nights, Elks eat parades on Veterans Day. Fireworks from the local bridge, grab a beer from the basement fridge. Nice to see you, hope that you can stay. You may live within these city lines, never venture far from home. You may live away and visit off and on. But there'll always be a place in your heart to remind you here's where you got your start. You'll always have a Manchester home. Manchester home is a city, don't you miss it when you're gone. Doesn't matter which side of the river you grew up on. Manchester home and my family, where the roots go deep and long. Right or wrong, it's still my Manchester home. Right or wrong, it's still my Manchester home. Right or wrong, it's still my Manchester home.
That's terrific. That's so cool. And it's in a lot of ways, it's so true. I've said it many times myself. I think as an adult, I've paid utilities and rent at 6 different places. Many of them not very close to here. Been DC, Philly, Quebec City, Ireland. I always come home.
Yep.
I always come back to Manchester. And no matter how many times from being 18 years old to whenever, I'll say, you know what, I got to go see someplace else. I want to go someplace else. I've kind of resigned myself, not resigned myself because I'm okay with it, to the fact that at the end of the day, I'm still going to come home.
Yep.
I'm still going to be back in Manchester.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. That is awesome. So this has been an absolute blast. This has been a ton of fun. So where can we send people if we want to get your book, want to listen to some of your work?
Well, I've got my book, The Singing Bridge, is available via Amazon. Just look up my name. Either look up The Singing Bridge, and I think there are two of them out there.
Okay.
Only one of them has the Notre Dame Bridge on it.
Okay, well, we can provide a link, I guess.
That'd be great, yeah.
In the description for the
So I have
episode.
I have a website, Jean-Edouard-Pouliot.com. I have an email, Jean@JeanEdouardPouliot.com, and I have a Substack where I publish my new stuff. So if you're interested in JeanPouliot.substack.com.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This
Thank
has
you.
been a very, very fun time.
Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Now our fathers look at us and sigh with despair, to think that everything they love we simply do not share. But the spirit never dies, our culture will survive. Each of us must choose how much to keep alive. Each of us must choose how much to keep alive.
Special thanks to Josie Vachon for providing the music. You can find more about her at josievachon.com. This podcast was produced and edited by Mike Campbell. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at fclpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FCL Podcast for more information about the topics discussed. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this episode.